My name is Clarissa Vance, and I've learned to keep my power quiet. It was a warm Sunday evening when my sister hosted her engagement dinner at our parents' house. Everyone was there, uncles, cousins, childhood neighbors who still believed they had a front row seat to my life. The table was crowded, laughter bouncing off the walls, wine flowing freely, but I could always feel the weight of their eyes landing on me like I didn't quite belong. "You still driving that little gray thing?" someone asked, loud enough for a few to chuckle. My sister shot me a look of faux concern. She whispered, "She's just, practical." Clarissa's always been good at making things stretch. Her fiancé laughed politely, unaware of the undertone. I did. Everyone did. I smiled, sipped my water. I owed no one an explanation. Then, just as the plates were being cleared, her fiancé leaned across the table, casual as can be, and asked, "Hey, Clarissa, this is random, but do you have anything to do with a jet I saw in Street Barts last weekend? Something like Vance Capital on it." The room fell silent. Forks froze midair. I smiled faintly. "Yeah, that's me." It had been like that for years. Every family gathering the same. Cheerful questions that weren't really questions. Veiled comments dressed as concern. They saw me as the odd one out, the daughter who never settled down, didn't live in their zip code, never brought a date, never posted baby shower photos or beach vacations online. At first, I tried harder. I sent gifts, remembered birthdays, even volunteered to pay for dinner sometimes, thinking it might shift the tone, but it only made things worse. One year I offered to help with my niece's school tuition. My sister told everyone I was buying their approval. After that, I stopped offering. I moved to Seattle when I was 22 and rarely looked back. They called it running away. I called it breathing. The first few years were rough. I bounced between jobs, rented a basement with no windows, lived on rice and eggs. I started a side project, a simple software tool for independent couriers to manage deliveries. It didn't even have a name at first. I coded at night, did customer support by day, burned out more than once. 3 years later, a logistics firm in Singapore found it, reached out, asked if I'd considered scaling. I hadn't, but I did. With a little help and a lot of caffeine, I built it out. The company grew. A seed round, then a Series A. By the time I was 35, I had a full staff, a headquarters, international clients, and a non-disclosure on a sale that earned me more than my parents had ever imagined. I kept the old car. I didn't need a new one. It kept things quiet. But to my family, none of that mattered. All they saw were the things I didn't show. I didn't wear luxury brands. I didn't brag. I didn't explain where I went on holidays. And so they filled in the blanks with what they wanted to believe. "She's always been independent," my mother would say at dinners, tight smile. My aunt leaned over one Thanksgiving, whispering, "At least your sister turned out normal." At first it hurt. Then it amused me. Now it was just static. I tuned out completely. They thought I was poor because I didn't flaunt wealth the way they understood it. I didn't need their approval to feel successful. I didn't beg for a seat at a table built on shallow foundations. Still, I showed up that night. Not for them, but for me. Watching their faces freeze at the mention of that jet wasn't planned, but it was satisfying. There was a time I thought I could earn my way back into their good graces. I used to believe love, at least in families, could be negotiated. That if I worked hard enough, gave enough, proved myself enough, they'd look at me differently, maybe even see me. When I was 28, a ruptured appendix turned septic. Weeks of recovery. Not one phone call, not a card. My roommate at the time, a guy I barely knew from Craigslist, brought me soup, helped me shower. My own mother didn't even know I almost died. Or maybe she did and figured it wasn't her problem. That was the last time I expected anything from them. I stopped sending holiday texts. I let birthdays pass. I pulled away so quietly, they barely noticed. Or maybe they did and were just too proud to say anything. But cutting them out emotionally didn't mean cutting them off entirely. I still showed up for big events. I still brought thoughtful gifts. I played the role of eccentric older sister. It was easier than explaining why I kept my distance. Some part of me still hoped, despite everything, that something would shift. That maybe one day they'd ask what I was working on. With genuine curiosity. that they'd see me not as a cautionary tale, but as someone who carved her own path and survived. It never happened. When my business took off, I didn't tell them. Not when I hired my first employee. Not when we hit $2 million in recurring revenue. Not even when I signed the acquisition that paid me enough to retire twice over. What would be the point? They wouldn't believe me. Or worse, they'd twist it. My mother would say I was bragging. My sister would insist I was exaggerating. I learned to keep my victories private. I poured the money into a new venture, one I didn't name after myself on purpose. Something sustainable. Something that let me create jobs. I stayed out of the spotlight. I flew coach even when I didn't have to. My team knew who I was. My partners respected me. That was enough. But it wasn't just the money that changed. It was me. I no longer needed to convince anyone of my worth. I didn't carry the ache of being excluded. I had built my own table quietly, steadily, piece by piece. Still, there was irony. After years of shrinking myself to avoid judgment, the truth was about to fall into their laps over dessert, delivered not by me, but by the man my sister was about to marry. And I knew she would hate it. In her world, there was only room for one success story. She had claimed that title long ago. The diamond ring, planned honeymoon, matching luggage set, all meticulously curated and flaunted online. I didn't come to disrupt anything. I truly didn't. But when life hands you a moment like that, you don't flinch. You hold your glass steady, smile, and let the truth sit there on the table, sparkling and undeniable. The evening had been set up to be picture perfect. White string lights twinkled along the backyard fence. The long dining table dressed in navy linens and gold cutlery. Classy, my sister said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. A private chef. Servers in black, moving like shadows. Soft jazz drifting from hidden speakers. It was her moment, curated down to the minute. I arrived 20 minutes late on purpose, not to make a scene, just enough to avoid tight smiles and obligatory small talk. I parked a block away, walked the last stretch in heels that didn't belong to any label. Slipped in through the side gate with the confidence of someone used to being underestimated. Mom met me at the patio doors, voice sticky sweet. "Clarissa, we weren't sure you'd show. Code for, we hoped you wouldn't." My sister floated over seconds later, champagne silk, glittering ring, eyes gleaming. "You look cozy," she said, scanning my black sheath dress with a tight-lipped grin. Simple, practical, frugal. Every word she used was a euphemism for small. I smiled. "Good to see you, too." The table buzzed with chatter. "Congrats for my niece. Praise for my cousin's boyfriend." I nodded when looked at. But no one asked what I'd been up to. No one ever did. I wasn't part of their success narrative, the quirky one, the lone wolf, the woman who chose freedom. I sipped water and let them talk over me. Easier than swimming upstream. By the third course, comments began to shift. Uncle Jeff leaned over, chuckled. "Still driving that old Honda? I swear it's got more miles than your father's lawnmower." Laughter, not cruel, just familiar. Comfortable in condescension. Someone added, "Clarissa always loved her bargain bins. DIY Christmas gifts. Hand soap from scratch?" My sister sighed. Performative. She stays grounded, never lets success get to her. I looked across the table, meeting her perfect smile. She was trying to impress him by putting me down. He tilted his head, curious. "Wait, Clarissa Vance? Vance Capital?" My sister blinked. "What?" He continued. "I saw your name on a jet last weekend in Street Barts. Concierge said owners based in Seattle. We were scouting honeymoon venues." The air shifted. Forks hovered. Wine glasses froze. I met his gaze. Calmly, I said, "That's me." A single beat. Another. My cousin's jaw dropped. My mother's eyes narrowed, recalculating everything. My sister went visibly pale. Her fiancé blinked, lips parting for words that didn't come. "Wait, you closed that deal with Eastern Freight last year? Huge merger." I didn't respond. Truth echoed louder than words. My sister laughed awkwardly. "She's kidding, right?" I stood slowly, napkin folded neatly. "Actually, I have an early flight. I should get going. Dessert wasn't even out yet," my mother said too fast. "I know. every eye on me, desperate to reframe me, to catch up. I wasn't there to help them. As I reached the gate, someone whispered, "She has a jet." No one followed. I didn't look back. The walk to my car felt longer. Silence hung behind me like smoke. Weightlessness in my chest. Like setting something heavy down for the last time. I slid into the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, staring ahead. Porch lights glowed behind me. Inside, my sister probably spun a new narrative. Maybe I won the lottery. Maybe I was a silent partner. Anything to stay the main character. But this time, she wasn't holding the pen. The truth didn't need belief. I didn't care if they believed it. It hit differently because it hadn't come from me. It came from someone they respected. For once, they had to reckon with who I actually was. I didn't need the moment. It arrived like a tide, steady, unstoppable. Later that night, my sister's fiancé texted, "Sorry if that was awkward tonight. Didn't mean to put you on the spot. Just respect what you've done a lot." I stared, then replied, "Thanks. I'm used to awkward." That was clarity. He read it, left a thumbs up. Enough. I lay in bed, sealing a quiet canvas. Memories painted themselves being 12. Back porch steps, watching her birthday party inside. Prom night, cousin laughing in the yard. Father, long gone, ruffling my hair. She's the practical one. The other one's the pretty one. Small words, small cuts, until you bleed where no one sees. Next morning, my mother texted, "Why didn't you ever tell us about your business?" I didn't answer, not spite, but honesty. It wasn't about curiosity. It was control. They tried to rewrite history. My silence was the reply. Cousins reached out. Cheerful messages, coffee invites. Suddenly, I had value. But it was too late. Invitations weren't about knowing me, they were proximity to a story reshaped. I declined politely. No anger, just clarity. 2 days later, the Street Bart's jet was prepped. I booked a last-minute seat not to escape, but because I'd earned the right to leave things behind. Glass of mineral water in hand, cabin over endless ocean, sun hitting the wing, a clean line of light through clouds. I smiled not for flying private, but for flying free. Not everything needs confrontation. Sometimes the most powerful move is not explaining. To walk away mid-performance, letting the audience sit with their silence. For years, I thought my worth came from proving them wrong. Now I know better. My worth wasn't built on their recognition. It lived in every line of code I wrote alone, every team I built, every risk I took when failure felt certain. It lived in choosing not to become bitter. It lived in the quiet, the calm, in me. Closure isn't loud. It's a quiet plane ride away from people who never looked past their story. They still talk, speculate, rewrite me. Let them. I no longer live in their version of me. I've outgrown it. I don't need applause from a table I never belonged to. I don't need, "We were wrong about you." I already know. What I needed was peace, and I found it the moment I stopped shrinking myself. They saw it anyway, not because I demanded it. Truth doesn't need a microphone. It needs a moment. When it comes, you don't flinch, don't perform. You just stand, exactly as you are, and let the silence do the rest.